Yes, it's Destination Uri, the morning programme. I'm Rowan Hunt, and I have the joy of welcoming into studio once again Dolores Whelan from the Dundalk area. I'm never sure whether it's Dundalk or Faughart is your residence.
Well, I live in Ravensdale, but, I'm a Cavan woman.
A Cavan woman.
Yeah.
You've got it all covered there, I
There
tell
you go.
But it's all an ancient path between the sky and the earth.
Yes.
And that is St.
Bridget's Way.
Right.
Bridget's Way, which is a pilgrimage path which we believe existed in ancient times, but which 2 years ago, this is the third year we're doing it, we reimagined it, if you like, and we walked over 9 days from Faughart in County Louth through land over to Slane and Tara, through Donadee Forest Park, by Milltown into Robertstown on the canal, and into Kildare, the monastic city that Bridget set up.
Wow, I tell you. I said to you in the same way, you believe it goes back to medieval times and before.
Way before
Way
medieval
before
times,
that.
yeah.
Way before that. It's a little bit like the Shroud of Turin that the Pope was worshipping or paying reverence to at the weekend in that great northern city of Italy. Carbon dating has shown it to be medieval.
Okay.
The Pope believes and the Catholics believe it was the body that wrapped the body of Christ. How do you know this goes back as it was a pilgrim way all those years ago?
Well, we don't know it.
But you have reason.
We
for thinking
know.
it.
We don't know it in a scientific way, but we know it in an intuitive, deep understanding way. And one of the things that happened when we were thinking about doing this were all the synchronicities that happened. So, for example, we want to walk this way, and I'm speaking to a woman in Dundalk called Sally Cox, who had asked me to speak at something that she was holding in her house. And the first thing she said to me was, "We need you to be there because did you know that a part of the ancient path from Faughart to Kildare goes through my land?" I almost dropped the phone. She knew nothing about. We hadn't even begun the research. And Harold O'Sullivan, who was a local historian in Dundalk, he had told her that there was an ancient path that went from Faughart to Kildare, part of which went through her land.
My goodness.
So that was the first scoop. We go to Tara, and we meet all these people who are so interested. And we meet this woman who's doing readings for people. And she keeps hearing this word in her readings, Camino. Or no, she hears Camino.
Camino. Yes.
She thinks it's the Camino, and she doesn't know anything about the Camino in northwest Spain. And so somebody said to her, well, it must be in northwest Spain, Camino. And she said, no, it's actually walking past the door here. So it was walking past Tara. Then we discovered that there were 5 ancient roads that come from Tara. One of them comes through Faughart on its way to Armagh and the north coast of Ulster. And it was called the Shlimalukra, one of the 5 great roads of Ireland. When we're tracking the actual path that we will walk, we move from the N2 for a very practical reason. It's actually too busy. And we go on this little road between Ardee and Slane through Smarmore. And we discovered that that is actually the Shlimalukra, but we didn't know that.
You didn't know that.
We didn't know that. We're going in near Kilcock, and we're trying to, there's a maze of tiny little roads, and we're wondering, is this the right road? We come around a corner, and there's a riding stables called Brideswell. And 100 yards up the road, there's a well called Bridget's Well. So we were guided amazingly.
Yeah. Tell me, why this Bridget?
Yes.
How does she embellish your life?
Well, you see, for me, Bridget stands at the heart of the Celtic spiritual tradition in both its pre-Christian and its Christian forms. She is an embodiment of the divine feminine. So how does she embellish my life? She embellishes my life by allowing me to connect with that deep feminine energy, which is the energy associated with the earth. It's the energy associated with birthing, with nurture, with death, with transition. It's a very embodied energy, as opposed to, we'll say, the kind of divinity that we've mostly grown up with is a divinity which is masculine, which is abstract, which is disconnected from who we are.
You see, I was going to say that to you, and you've taken it from me, and how right you are. And it gives what I'm going to ask you a certain importance, a certain provenance. You know, how could God, bearing in mind all of these things that you're saying, and a general observation of the mess we've made of the world, how could God be a man? I'm not being funny here.
No, I don't think you're being funny at all, and I think that's part. I mean, what we have created God in our image,
yes,
rather than God allowing us to be created in God's image.
Yeah.
And it's a switching of roles. But for the last 5,000 years, the major paradigm that we have operated out of as human beings is patriarchy.
Yes.
And so the patriarchy is about men, old men mostly, ruling over somebody, and it's a very hierarchical and it's a top-down way of being in the world. But actually the reality of the world is not that, except insofar that we have made it in our image and in the image of that. I've had a visitor with me for the last few days, and we've been talking. She's just back from South Africa. She works for the Gandhi Institute, and she was traveling with Arunda Gandhi's grandson, who's just 81, bless him.
Bless him indeed.
But she was talking about how in all the primal cultures, houses are round.
Yes.
Most things in life are in circles, not in straight lines.
Yes.
And Alan Watts, one of the great philosophers and psychotherapists of the 60s and 70s, said, the problem with humans is life happens in wiggles, and we try to explain it in straight lines.
Yeah, why do we do that?
Because that's how...
I'm suddenly taken back to my Africa and
Yes.
the people I love there. They build a circle of blocks of mud and straw on the ground, and it's there, and it dries on the Monday. And then on Tuesday they bring the second circle and they put it on top.
Yeah.
And day by day, the home grows. And I understand entirely what you're saying about that circular worth and how it connects in.
Well, going back to Bridget, so Bridget is seen as a mother figure. She's also, she is the Christian Saint Bridget, but before Christianity came to Ireland, she was one of the goddesses of Ireland. She was the principal goddess of Ireland. And, excuse me, she is... What does that mean? It's an energy of femininity that actually nurtures us, that holds us in its embrace rather than holds us separate.
Yeah, you see, you're scratching all my itches when you talk about the femininity embraces. From the womb, we're like that.
Yes, exactly.
And we spent men at the time. We spend our lives decrying it and stepping away from it and beating our chests and shooting somebody because they've done something wrong.
Well, the thing about it is, I think the feminine qualities are about life-sustaining.
Yes.
A lot of patriarchy sees the only way to serve as sacrifice,
yes,
whereas the feminine sees compassion as the way to serve.
Would the feminine God have capital punishment?
No.
Would that fellow who did the business in America that shot the 9 in the church, would he get put to death in a feminine culture?
I don't know is the answer, but I know
But you think maybe not?
Well, in Ireland at one stage we had the Brehon laws.
Yeah.
And in those laws the process was restorative justice, not punitive justice. So the restorative justice was, so if you commit a crime, the crime meant that you broke the bond of relationship between you and your fellow human being, between you and your community, between you and the earth. And we as humans have broken the bond between ourselves and the earth. So the way in which that was restored, and it wasn't punitive justice, it was restorative, that you had to repair that bond which you had broken.
We had a bit of, please,
No, but so therefore, it was about how can we restore the balance and the order, rather than how can we lock people up in ridiculous prisons that doesn't do anything for them or for society.
They're talking about it in America at the moment because drugs, and there's no human being on the planet Earth more opposed to drugs than Rowan Hand. But they're talking in America now that if you're caught with a milligram or whatever of something called crack cocaine,
crack cocaine,
that you'll be given 20 years in prison.
Which is a bit ridiculous.
And they're trying to change that. That's what they're talking about at the moment. But we've been slightly blessed in Ireland. If I take, and I do, seriously what you're saying about the importance of the matriarchy, if we take that as being the way forward, we've been blessed in Ireland because we've had 2 presidents, the 2 Marys.
Absolutely.
Now, from the beginning of the first Mary to the end of the second Mary, What change for the good did we experience?
Well, I think we had a connection with values and with vision that we didn't have before. And we have a third president who is a man but is very in contact with his own femininity.
Yeah.
Michael D.
Yes.
So what we have, you see, the feminine feminine world view is one that comes from a place of values. What are the values? What are the principles? What are the ethics that will nurture us? And what I've seen in the two Marys and with Michael D is that we have moved further into reflectiveness and a deepening understanding of who we are as people. I think that had never happened before.
No. That's what I spotted. And the back to Bridget. I'm right in thinking that legend has it she went off and acted as the midwife at the birth of Christ.
Well, that's one of the stories, and it's a lovely story because Christianity came to Ireland very soon after Christ's time. The Druids, who were the pre-Christian priests and, if you like, and poets, and so, they predicted the coming of Christ. They knew. It was like an evolution in consciousness. So it's not at all surprising that Bridget, who was one of the supreme goddesses of the tradition, would be spirited to help birth this new divine energy that was coming in. You see, Jesus of Nazareth brought in the Christ energy.
Yes.
The Christ energy is the energy of unconditional love.
Yeah.
The Buddha brought in the energy of wisdom and compassion. And in my own understanding, the Buddha had to come before the Christ.
Yes.
Because it's only from that place of understanding our absolute connectedness that we can ever connect with the unconditional love of our hearts.
Do you sense, now we're talking about Bridget's Way and the walk, and we'll give the people the detail of it in a moment. Do you sense that there is still a powerful heartbeat of the Bridget thing in the present world?
Oh,
and is the world crying out for more of it?
I think,
and
yes,
how?
I think there is a huge presence. Every time I go to Faughart, which is the wonderful shrine of Faughart, of Bridget of Faughart, and the Holy Well up in the graveyard, there are always people there.
Yeah.
And I was there last Friday with 2 Canadian women. I was there with an American woman on Saturday. And I was explaining to both of them that for me, Faughart is a place I go to when I need nurture. And I go and I walk around and I pray to Bridget in whatever way I pray. And I feel a sense of being connected and being held. And the way I describe it is like that Bridget is very egalitarian. She's not really of the hierarchical church. And for me, Bridget is part of the Celtic Christian tradition and the Celtic pre-Christian tradition. She stands at the centre of our tradition.
Which would have had nothing to do with preaching love from thrones of marble.
No, but it would be about practicing love in reality.
Yeah.
And one of the things, the stories about Bridget that are so amazing are the stories of her absolute trust in the divine to provide, her absolute commitment to generosity and her belief in abundance, and her capacity to be able to receive what it is she needs in each moment. And one of the stories that I love to tell is the story about in Kildare. She was looking for a place to build her monastery. So she asked the local chieftain, can I have some land to build my monastery? And he said, no, you can't. I'm not giving it to you. And she didn't say, well, sod you. She just said, she thought about it for a minute, and she said, tell you what, could I just have enough land that will cover my cloak? So she puts her cloak down on the ground, and he said, yes, of course, silly woman, almost in part. And the cloak grows and grows and grows and grows until she has exactly enough land to build her monastery. And because he has given his word, he cannot go back on it. So what I see there is a person who knows how to engage with the world, not be knocked off center. She was very, very present to the divine in everything.
Yes.
And so that feeling is very easily felt at Faughard.
Yeah.
And so we're starting our pilgrimage on next Saturday, the 27th of June. We're starting our pilgrimage at 2 o'clock in the grounds of the Faughard Shrine. And we're inviting as many people who would like to come and send out. We have 14 people who are walking the entire route. We have 7 people who are walking 6 days. And then every day, people are invited to join. And so on next Saturday, we have a kind of a ceremonial sending out of the pilgrims.
Yes.
They'll be piped out of Faughard by our piper, Patrick Martin, and down. We will walk then from there to Kilcurry, over to Toberona, Fatima, and then through the land that Sally Cox, Lisnawilly land, through her land, to where there's a tiny piece of a stream that may have been connected with her.
Why?
And then we go the next day to Ardee, and the next day to Slane, and the next day to Tara, and so on.
How do people get involved?
Well, if people want to get involved, they just check the website. It's www.Bridget, BRIGIDSWAY.ie.
Bridget's Way.
.id. And for local, for the thing on Saturday, next Saturday, if you want to contact me, it's the southern number 00353 4293 and we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we have a wonderful website, so it's very easy to find out.
Give them that telephone number again slowly.
Okay, 00353 4293 71901.
Thank you very, very much indeed.
Yeah, thank you.
This is Dolores Whelan. I'm Rowan Hand. You're with the morning programme.